What it do? Bad Sound Crew. Hey man, listen, today the best matchmaker on YouTube is back, and I'm here to be giving you guys the fights that we need after UFC 308 Topuria versus Holloway. These are the biggest winners and losers next matchups that I absolutely want to see. I'm not going to be covering every single fighter on the card, so if you wanted to hear my matchup for Carlos Leal, the dude with the pimples all over his back, I'm sorry, you came to the wrong video. I'm here to talk about superstars only, and the biggest superstar I want to talk about, starting off from the prelims, this kid Ebbo Aslan. He reminds me of a young Jon Jones. He even reminds me of a young Chuck Liddell, the way that he was swinging big wing and hooks up against the fence. Just no regard for the outside foot battle, no regard for hand positioning. Just a beautiful performance in the light heavyweight division. I believe Ebbo Aslan versus Modestas Bukauskas is a sick fight that the UFC should make in the light heavyweight division. Bukauskas obviously coming off a great win against Marcin Prachnio. I don't think Aspinall ever said anything about Prachnio, but he's one of those guys that fits the bill. I think Bukauskas versus Aslan is a very exciting matchup. Two guys that can actually kind of box and can actually kind of strike at light heavyweight. They're not just going to hold each other up against the fence and gas out. I think this would be a pretty cool matchup. Would fit great on like a UK pay-per-view card, whatever they do with Aspinall next year. Put this on the prelims, and you're sorted, in my opinion. So yeah, let's make Bukauskas versus Aslan. Moving on to Abus Magomedov. I mean, guys, I hate to say I told you so, but I did tell you that the Abus Magomedov title run starts at UFC 308. He put on a great performance against Bruno Ferreira. Obviously had some trouble in the middle of that fight. Bounced back with some wrestling late. Kind of Dricus maxed a little bit. I don't want to make the comparisons right now, but seeing this dude gas out and then just run takedowns into the fence and get a submission in round 3, very reminiscent of a young Dricus du Plessis. So I think it's time that we give Abus Magomedov a bit of a jump in competition, considering the fact that he only lost to Cal Baralho and Sean Strickland in the middleweight division. Other than that, he's won his fights. I think let's do Abus Magomedov versus Michel Pereira. Somebody's got to fucking make it to round 2 with cardio. Somebody's got to do it. I think this would be a very goofy matchup. I think these two are some of the goofiest goobers in the game. The cardio matchup would be hilarious. I think the opening striking exchanges would be fucking lethal as well. Like Southpaw was a bit of a trouble for Abus Magomedov whenever Ferreira went Southpaw. Michel Pereira is very dangerous from that stance. I think this would be a really, genuinely badass matchup, but I also feel like it has a lot of meme potential, which makes me really want to see this on, the prelims of a pay-per-view or as the co-main event to an Apex fight night. I think this has fight of the night written all over it. I know you want to see this now after I've suggested it. Please, UFC, let's do Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov. What a great matchup. Let's move on to Jeff Neal. Obviously, he got the win against RDA. RDA had kind of like a Unk status kind of retirement in that fight. Injured his leg and was not able to continue after some knockdowns. Jeff Neal, he's one of those interesting... Jeff Neal's fucking weird, man. How do you lose to Neil Magny, but then you're Shavkat's hardest fight? You know what I'm saying? How do you do that? Right? So it's kind of weird to matchmake Jeff Neal, because I'm not going to put him up against some unranked guy at welterweight when he clearly just proved he is still a top 10 welterweight. He's already fought Wonderboy and a lot of other guys ranked above him, like Ian Gary and Shavkat, obviously, like I've said. He does have some history with Bilal Muhammad, so I know the UFC probably does want to get him back up towards the title eventually. But I think, honestly, Jeff Neal versus MVP would be a sick fight. This probably should have been the matchup anyways at UFC 308. I'm going to be real. It should have been Jeff Neal versus Randy Brown or Jeff Neal versus Carlos Prates. Jeff Neal versus MVP. It should have been Jeff Neal versus someone not geriatric and not ranked at welterweight. I don't know what this guy's doing in the top 10 fighting fucking RDA. But now that that's done, now that we've... Oh, yeah, Jeff Neal can beat a fucking lightweight that's 40 years old that, has no wins at welterweight in the past 3 years. Let's give him some fucking actual competition here. Let's do Jeff Neal versus MVP in the welterweight division. Pretty similarly ranked. Jeff Neal's ranked number 10. MVP's ranked number 13 or something. I think that the striking is where this fight is mainly going to take place, which means we will potentially get either a Jeff Neal knockout or MVP highlight reel KO. not as high of a chance of a snoozer as if you put MVP in there with someone that wants to grapple him, wants to stink it up, right? Or you put him in there with someone that, you know, I don't know. I just feel like the way that these two match up, you're more likely to get something entertaining than getting MVP versus Wonderboy or MVP versus like Neil Magny or some bullshit like that. This has a chance to be entertaining. And I think that's all you need with MVP is like a little bit of a chance that someone chins him or that he can beat them up. Because Geoff Neal does have a good chin, but he does get hurt in a lot of his fights, especially against like taller and lankier kind of guys. I think Geoff Neal versus MVP is a pretty sick fight. Makes a lot of sense too. Both these guys lost to Gary. The winner can move up and fight like Gilbert Burns or, you know, someone cool up the division. Maybe Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley. Let's move on. Shara Bullet. Now, Shara Bullet opened up the main card with a fucking Tekken combo. This dude pressed triangle and square and X at the same time as LB and did 2 spinning back fists, knocked out Armen Petrosian. Wants to be active. I fucking love it, dude. I fucking love it. I love that this guy wants to be active. I'm very disappointed that he can't fight in the US, which kind of limits where he can fight. I think he was talking about fighting in China on that Petr Yan Davison Figueiredo card. I like that idea. I don't know if we're going to get this opponent to go to China, but I think it would be kind of funny. I think Kevin Holland versus Shara Bullet makes a lot of sense. I believe in Denver Shara Bullet can fight as well, so maybe that's something that you do, but either you do this in November or you feed Shara Bullet some fucking jabroni at middleweight. I don't know. Give Shara Bullet like, I don't even know, dude. Like Brad Tavares in November. No, never mind. He just fought. Give Shara Bullet someone in China that he can beat. And then in February in Saudi Arabia, let's do Kevin Holland versus Shara Bullet. I think that's a pretty decent jumping competition. Still a good matchup. It's not something that you're like, okay, well, this is where the Shara Bullet hype ends. He could win this. Like, Kevin Holland could fucking sell and give up in the middle of this fight. That's a real, you know, that's a real thing. That's a real possibility here. And I bring you that because Kevin Holland doesn't care about fighting. Like, this is the type of fight Kevin Holland either locks the fuck in and smokes Shara Bullet, or he just stands around getting chinned for like 15 minutes and pretends that he doesn't care. So I think this is definitely winnable for both of these guys. 2 pretty big names in the unranked section of the middleweight division. Most people are going to want to see this fight. So let's do Kevin Holland versus Shara Bullet. Moving on to Lerone Murphy, bruv, versus Dan Ige. Obviously, we got the win against Dan Ige. He got some takedowns early on against us. That was pretty big. He looked all right. You know, he wore some damage with the jab early on, an elbow, I believe, in round 2. The knee up the middle at the end of round 3 kind of cost him the fight. Just kind of taking his foot off the gas at the end of round 3. Dan Ige looked pretty good, man. Like, it's classic Dan Ige. He does all right. He loses a 29-28 decision to whoever's ranked and coming up. He's probably going to have to fight someone unranked next to get a win back and then go back up into the top 15 to be ranked number 13 for the rest of his career. And I think that a pretty fun matchup that now seems winnable based on this other guy's last performance. Can we finally give Joanderson Brito what he's been begging for, dude? I feel like it's been 3 years straight of Joanderson Brito just being like, Dan Ige, motherfucker! Hey, Dan Ige! Just calling him out after every single fight. So I think now is the time we pull the trigger on this. And we do Dan Ige versus Joanderson Brito. Exciting matchup. Very winnable for Brito, but I could also see him losing this somehow simply by virtue of him not being ranked. And, you know, there's nothing more dangerous for an unranked guy than Dan Ige fighting you when he's ranked, because that means that he is going to be gatekeeping like his life fucking depends on it. You know, he's a bit of an old head in the division. He's 33 years old. He's on the older side of a featherweight in their career. And, you know, he's still dangerous, though. I think he's a good test for Brito. I know he just lost his last fight, but does anybody really give a fuck about William Gomez fighting Dan Ige? Probably not. Let's just do Gomez versus someone else. And let's do Brito versus Ige. There's some beef to it. You can hype it up. You can make it the co-main event of a fight now. You can put it as the featured fight of a fucking, I don't know, like a decently stacked fight night. Let's make Ige versus Brito. As for Lerone Murphy, bruv, this guy's a young man in the featherweight division. He's only 33 years old. I mean, come on, guys. You know, he's still on the come up. He's still learning and growing and being a young prospect in the featherweight division. You know, Lerone Murphy, bruv, we looked really good in this fight, man. He got the win. Great striking. I mean, the way that this guy controls the outside foot battle, the way that this guy hand fights, I mean, for such a young prospect at featherweight, the fact that this guy's beating Dan Ige, beating whoever he beat in his last fight. I literally don't even remember. Oh, yeah, Edson Barboza. You know, Lerone Murphy, this guy's a serious problem at featherweight, and I think that he needs a jump in competition. He made a call out on the mic, and honestly, I'm cool with it. First and foremost, where the fuck is Josh Emmett? That's my first question about this fight. I do want to see this fight, but I just want to know where the fuck Josh Emmett has gone. Because he literally hasn't fought since, oh man, it's been so long. Since the last time Shavkat Rakhmonov fought. Actually, believe it or not, you know. He hasn't fought since Colby Covington last fought. I can't believe I'm about to say this. Leon Edwards has been more active than Josh Emmett, bro. And I know Josh Emmett low-key does this, but it is annoying to kind of wonder where he's at in his career, because he had a good fight with Ilio, then he disappeared for a while, then he came back and fought Bryce Mitchell on short notice. Has not seen the face of the earth since. Bro just despawned from the fucking roster, but if he's still out there, I think him versus Lerone Murphy's a pretty good matchup. Definitely gives me Apex Fight Night main events. I know we're going to be without the Apex, so put this in, like, Canada. I don't even know, dude. Like, Richmond, Virginia, or some shit like that. This is the type of Fight Night main event that we should be getting. I think Emmett versus Murphy's a pretty good fight. All jokes aside, Murphy is a pretty good prospect. I would like to see how he handles Josh Emmett. The power in the chin of Josh Emmett is a real test for, like, where you sit in the division. Like, the fact that Yair Rodriguez and Topuria beat this guy, that's about it in the division. That if you can beat Josh Emmett, you are legit top 5 worthy material. So I think this is a pretty decent jumping competition for Lerone Murphy. Makes sense. He's on a good win streak. He's undefeated. Obviously, he's a superstar in the making. I mean, this guy's personality is like 10 out of 10 as well. So let's do Lerone Murphy, bruv, versus Josh Emmett. Let's move on to my favorite part of the card, Big Ank. Magomed Ankalaev, personal friend of mine, great fighter. I mean, future champion written all over him. He fought Alexander Rakic. Rakic unfortunately did not get the win. He was very tentative in the matchup. Like, I'm going to try not to troll here. I was going to just start trolling and being like, oh, he's scared of the GOAT Big Ank, just like Pereira, but I'm not going to troll here, okay? Rakic was very tentative. He is a bit of a decision machine. We know this about him. I think that when someone is a wrestler, or someone is a really dangerous, kind of, you know, well-rounded fighter, it makes Rakic very tentative, and he's more likely to point fight against you. Whereas Yuri Prohaska, I feel like Rakic went into that clearly thinking, I'm better than this guy. So I want to give Rakic someone that he probably thinks he's better than, just outright, that's not going to wrestle against him. And I think it'd be a badass matchup. Just give me Rakic versus Roundtree. It should have been this already. It should have been Ankalaev versus Pereira and Rakic versus Roundtree from the jump. But now that we have it sorted, yeah, number 1 ranked Magomed Ankalaev is better than number 5 ranked Rakic, who just lost. Okay, we've got that established now in the division, and good thing we figured that one out. Let's do Rakic versus Roundtree. Competitive matchup. Very, very winnable for Rakic here because it's a pure striking matchup. I think fans would be fucking hyped to see this, because they still see the highlights of my boy Rakic getting that head kick KO, and they think this guy's coming out there to KO you, dude. Little do they realize, this is Leon Edwards reskinned at light heavyweight. But regardless, still an exciting matchup. Still a great fight. Makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, for Roundtree as well, considering he lost to Pereira, but he was up on the scorecards. Most people consider him a legit contender now. We're probably going to get Jamal Hill versus Yuri Prohaska. I hope we get that. If they make that, please do this fight. Rakic versus Roundtree, take my fucking money. Throw this on like a pay-per-view, or make this the headliner of a fight. Again, man, these are all great fight night main events. Like Rakic, Roundtree, Emmett versus Lerone Murphy. These are the type of fights that should be headlining fight nights, but realistically, we're going to get fucking Lemos versus Tatiana Suarez 2 or some shit headlining every fight night. So throw this on a pay-per-view, please, brother. Let's get Rakic versus Roundtree. Now we get to talk about Big Ank. All right? My boy. All right? And listen, Alex Pereira, I know we met, brother, and I told you this face-to-face. Real ones know. I just didn't have the cameras on. You can run, but you can't hide anymore. Big Ank is coming for you, bro. Okay? I don't know when this happened, but I'm now an Ankalaev fan, guys. I don't know when it happened. I don't know when it stopped being a joke and it started being real. I'm genuinely so rooting for Magomed Ankalaev to get a title shot. Dana White did confirm this is next, which makes me happy because he does deserve it, all jokes aside. And I just think it's hilarious. I just think it's so funny how mad people get about Magomed Ankalaev that I guess I can understand where the Ilya Glazers are coming from, because it is funny to just root for someone that everyone fucking hates. And yeah, dude, I'm Team Ank. I think he deserves this fight. I hope we get this next. I would love to see this in like early... Oh man, I know that the UFC pay-per-view in Australia is probably going to be headlined by either Volk versus Lopez or... I don't even know, Strickland Duplessis, but I would love for it to be headlined by this. Like, the timeline makes sense. Pereira said he wants to fight in Australia. He would never just say that to us at the meetup in Australia just to appease us. Like, I'm pretty sure he genuinely wants to defend his belt in Australia, guys. So, let's make Pereira versus Big Ank as soon as possible so that we can get the real light heavyweight champ running shit. All jokes aside, very competitive matchup. I'd love to see it. I don't know who would win, actually. I genuinely don't know. I don't know. Let me move on, though, to the co-main event. Bro, Bobby Knuckles got fucking fluked, bro. Seriously, dude. I'm pretty sure fucking Chimaev cheated with an illegal fucking elbow, bro. Because if that didn't happen, dude, I swear Whittaker would have got up and head kicked him, bro. Like, I don't know why Whittaker was kicking him in the legs. You should have just head kicked him straight away, like I do in UFC 5. Listen, man, Robert Whittaker, my boy, he took a L. I'm very sad for him. You know, seeing him, dude, the most tragic shit. I don't know who's working for the UFC. Why do you have to film Whittaker leaving the cage with his fucking head down? Why do you have to show me footage of Max Holloway watching footage of himself getting KO'd? Why do you feel the need to film that? But regardless, Whittaker's going to need a lot of time off. He's probably going to sit at around 4 or 5 ranked in the division for the time being until he comes back. I wonder if he can come back in February, considering he didn't really take any damage, just had like a pretty gnarly injury to his jaw and his teeth. Depending on the severity of that, either he comes back in February and he fights Caio Borralho. I think that's a pretty good matchup. It doesn't seem like Izzy really wants to fight Borralho. It's probably going to be Izzy versus Imavov next up in regards to what's up with Izzy. And maybe that's on the Sydney card. But if we can get this on the Sydney card, I think it would be really cool. But if not, I totally understand. I think like June, July, August, Whittaker can just come back. Maybe the UFC should make Borralho versus Imavov, and the winner of that can fight Robert Whittaker. That makes a lot of sense to me. That would be a good matchup. So maybe Whittaker versus the winner of a Imavov-Borralho matchup, or, you know, Robert Whittaker, worst case scenario, come back, fight Brendan Allen, and, you know, bounce back against the middleweight GOAT in the making, young Brendan Allen. Yeah, give him Borralho or Allen, in my opinion. I think that's what you do with Robert Whittaker. Let's move on to Khamzat Chimaev. Brother, I don't give a fuck about this, brother. Bro, I'm coming for the belt, man. I'm coming for the belt. I'm sorry to say this, guys. Sean Strickland, you're getting skipped, brother. I cannot wait to see the Sean Strickland Cope Fest on Twitter. The Sean Strickland fucking crash. And listen, I'm a Strickland fan. I do actually like Strickland, believe it or not. I know that's about the same as coming out to you guys, but I am a Strickland fan. I did enjoy when he beat Izzy. I thought he beat Dricus Du Plessis, but I know that this dude is on Twitter right now. Here's the fucking thing, dude. I had a fucking tough life, dude, and Chimaev gets to fucking walk all over me, dude. It's fucking bullshit, guys. I want to fucking hurt people. Like, I know this dude's gonna drop a fucking Joker rant about this, but the truth of the situation is, nobody gives a fuck about Strickland versus DDP 2. We all want to see, on everyone's soul, we all want to see Chimaev versus DDP. I mean that with 100%. I mean that with 1,000%. The fight itself is so intriguing. I think Chimaev wins this. I'm not going to lie. You got out-grappled by Derek Brunson. There was moments where you almost got out-grappled by fucking Darren Till. Like, Darren Till almost had a guillotine on this guy in round 1. Rewatch that shit. Got taken down by Robert Whittaker. I think that this is the where the rubber meets the road for young Dricus Du Plessis, mate. But I really can't wait for the press conference of this too, because Chimaev is undefeated in the cage. Dricus Du Plessis is undefeated on the mic, dude. Mate, I don't want to get you sick before your fight, mate. I know that you've been battling COVID, mate. You think COVID fucked you up? Yeah, bro. I already know that. I already know Dricus is going to get on the mic. Mate, you think long COVID fucked you up? You have no idea what I'm going to do to you, mate. I'm going to hospitalize you even worse than your life-threatening diseases did, mate. Don't worry about it, mate. You know, and then Chimaev, brother, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna kill this guy. Mate, I don't know why he's upset. I didn't say anything disrespectful to him. I just said, oh, mate, was he not hospitalized? I didn't realize that he was so upset about that, mate. I thought he'd got over it. I cannot wait for the press conference. I cannot wait for the fight. Genuinely a meeting of like unstoppable force meets a movable object. You don't get fights like that very often in the UFC. We already saw Strickland and DDP fight each other. This is like is Khamzat actually as good as we think he is, or is DDP somehow going to plot armor his way through this? Someone's plot armor has to fucking go. I need to see this fight. I don't give a fuck about Strickland versus DDP. Please, UFC, give us Chimaev DDP. I think they will, but yeah, that's the fight that needs to be made. All right, now we get to the main event, and I've decided to announce my move to featherweight because I need to take out Ilia Topuria myself, bro. I'm sick of this fucking guy. No, all right, listen, bro. I'll talk about Max Holloway first. First and foremost, obviously, he needs to move up to 155. There's nothing left for him to do at 145. He has a pretty solid legacy there. He's only going to tarnish it more by beating one or two more contenders, which he would do if he stayed there. And then losing to Topuria again, or losing to whoever beats Topuria. I'll talk about that in a second. I think moving up to 155 is a great idea. It's always been something we've discussed. Like, it's always been... I vividly remember this clip one time where someone was saying, I think Max Holloway is going to end his career at welterweight. Which, all right, chill the fuck out. But I definitely think moving up to 155 is a great idea because you have a lot of options, dude. You're the BMF champ. Why did I sound like Chael when I said you have a lot of options? That's a real thing. You've got Makhachev. You got Sakarian up there. Can I bring you this idea? You've got Conor McGregor. That's a real thing. That's a real fight that Conor wants. He called me, right? Now, all jokes aside, I think Holloway needs to just defend his BMF belt. And the first defense, considering Charles Oliveira is fighting Michael Chandler, and I would have said let's do Max versus Charles if Charles wasn't booked. Bro, give me this. Give me fucking Dan Listen. I had to sit through watching Max Holloway get fucking KO'd by Ilia Topuria, bro. I had to watch that. I'm fucking traumatized, dude. I had to watch my boy Max Holloway. Hey, listen, we're going to find out October 26th. Find out on October 26th, bro. Give me something nice in this reality. Give me Dan Hooker versus Max Holloway. 5 rounds for the BMF belt. Put it in fucking Saudi Arabia. Put it in fucking, I don't even know. Maybe Australia. I don't think he's going to bounce back in time for February, but like, put this International Fight Week next year. This would be fucking amazing. Let Dan Hooker recover from the war with the GOAT, Mateusz Gamrot. July 2025, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, BMF belt, co-main event to like some sick title fight headlining International Fight Week. Done. Everyone's happy. Winner of this can fight Conor McGregor or Charles Oliveira. Boom. You're fucking welcome. Make this fight immediately, dude. And as for Ilia Topuria, I'm actually going to say this guy's name correctly because I'm going to be real. This dude is borderline featherweight GOAT. He is him. He is him. I genuinely have no hate towards this guy. I actually think he performed really well. He's actually cool as fuck for the sport. This is like the closest we're going to get to McGregor's prime again. And I've just got to live in the moment and be happy with it while it's here. Even though it's sad to see Volk and Holloway lose, like, I am kind of looking forward to a new featherweight division where the top guys are new people, right? We get new matchups. And before I talk about who I think Topuria should fight next, I'm going to address who he will fight next, which will be Alexander Volkanovski. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm an Australian man. I love Alexander Volkanovski with all my heart. I have a fucking picture of him up on my wall. All right? I love Alexander Volkanovski. Unk, get out of the fucking cage. Please don't fight Ilia Topuria, bro. Watching Volk get in that cage at 308, it was like that scene in Interstellar. Don't let me leave, Murph. No, don't let me leave, Murph. Don't get in the cage, Volk. Do not fight Ilia Topuria. Genuinely, it was like watching fucking BJ Penn get in there and square off with Ilia. It was like watching Tony Ferguson get... It's like if fucking Shavkat beats Bilal and they get Tyron Woodley in the cage to square off with him. That's the level of cooked that we're dealing with. Please don't make Volk versus Ilia 2. Please don't. I beg you, but you're doing my fucking eating, you know? I think the UFC should make Topuria versus Lopez next. He's fresh. He's someone new. He's exciting. People love him. They're going to be excited about it. I don't think he wins this fight. I'm just going to be straight up. I don't think Lopez is the guy to beat Topuria, but I do think he should be next because it's like unknown. It's not unknown with Volk. We already know that he's cooked. Like there's no fucking mystery here, bro. We have to sit through a fucking build-up of I'm coming in dangerous, I'm going to hurt Ilya. And then he just gets fucking slept again. Oh, you're doing my fucking head in, Fuck that. Fuck that, dude. No. Give us Lopez versus Topuria. I don't think Lopez wins. I think he's the new Brian Ortega. I'm going to be honest with you. And you may be wondering what I mean by that. I'm glad you asked, dude. I think Lopez is going to be tough. I think he might have a close submission attempt on Topuria, but then I think other than that, he will get literally like 50-43 by Topuria. I don't think he has his only chance is like a fluke submission. So I think Lopez needs to get 50-43 and get his beak broken by Topuria. I think the only man that could stop Ilia Topuria, he's undefeated. He has a bit of history with Diego Lopez. He has a bit of history with Ilia Topuria as well. He's one of the most dangerous, powerful men in the featherweight division, and he's going to put a hurting on Aljamain Sterling at UFC 310. I'll let you guys decide for who you think I think is the man to beat Ilia. But in the meantime, let's do Ilia versus Lopez. Let me know your thoughts down below though, guys. What fights do you want to see after UFC 308? What do you think of my matchmaking and my opinions in this video? I want to hear everything in the comments down below. If you guys are enjoying the videos, drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're not fucking subscribed, dude, or I don't know, chin you. I probably won't. I'm actually pretty boring, but I'll take you down. Yeah, drop a like. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Bedtime MMA. I will see you guys in the next video. I got a banger tier list coming, boys. See you in that video, man. Goodbye.